Hello, all you coin aficionados out there, and welcome to the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Today we have two 1 shilling coins for you from Australia from 1943. And as you can see, I've got one flipped over to the obverse or front, and the other showing the reverse or the back. So we can look at them both at the same time. So if we look at this coin here, we see that it says George the Sixth, DG, which means by the grace of God. Um, Britain, Brit Omn Rex, King of all Britons. FD, Defender of the Faith. And here, Imperator or Emperor of India. So, of course, this coin was made in 1943 while India was still part of the British Empire. We can see that George VI is facing to the left, and this, of course, is the father of Queen Elizabeth. We have a toothed kind of inner rim, and if we tip this up, we'll see that it has a reeded, or what they call a milled edge. So when you put the two of these together, you can see very clearly that the edge is the same on both sides, but it looks a little bit different on this one, just the way that the light is hitting it. That's a little bit better. And because of the wear on this one, it actually looks a little tiny bit more worn out. Now, on the back, which we see here, it says Australia at the top. We have these two stars, which are the two Federation stars here. And then it says Shilling here in 1943. Now, there's a couple other things that we can see on the back if we magnify it out. And that is we can see the ram's head very clearly, and you can see the horns coming around. This is a very interesting engraving. And I believe it's a pre-shorn. In other words, it hasn't had the wool taken off of it at this point. Up here we see a K and a G, and that's the initials of the engraver George Kruger Gray. And then down here we see kind of a funny little mark here for an Australian coin, and that's because it is in S. And S here indicates that this was made at the San Francisco Mint, which makes a lot of sense if we think about when this coin was made. This coin was made in the middle of World War II. The United States essentially made these coins for the Australians if they needed more, like kind of as backup coins, but they made a whole lot of them. So on this particular coin, the 1943S, the San Francisco Mint made 16 million of these. They were also made, however, at the Melbourne Mint, and if it's made at the Melbourne Mint, it won't have the S here. It'll just have a blank here. And Melbourne Mint in 1943 made 2.7 million of these. So this coin was made from 1938 until 1944. It's obviously one of the decimalization coins because it still has the old shilling and pound system. And let's take a look at the back of this one too, just to make sure what the mint mark on this one is. And it looks like it's the same one. If there's a mint mark, it should be an S because that's the only, yeah, and this one you can see the S much better. If we look at this one versus this one, this is a little harder to see, but when we look at this one, we can see this clearly is an S for the San Francisco Mint. And again, we have the 2 stars for the Federation stars. And this particular coin, I should say, since we talked about the engraver of the back, this is the on the front we can see down here it says HP, and this is the Thomas Humphrey Paget engraving of King George VI. All right, these coins, another cool thing about them is they're 0.925 silver. So on silver value alone, these coins are worth about $2.65, $2.75 just in bullion value. So these coins are a little harder to find for collectors because they're expensive. So you're probably going to be talking somewhere between $3.50 and $5 minimum for these coins in this condition. So very fine's probably in the $4 US dollar range, not Australian. And If we get up to extra fine, we're going to pay $5 and up for it. If we one of the things about the 1943 is because it was the biggest year of mintage, it is going to be worth a little less than the other years. If you're looking for one of these, um, I would look for 1940. 1940, they only made 760,000. And in 1943, at the Melbourne Mint, the plain, they only made 2.7 million. So the S mintages are, they made more of them, so they're not quite as rare. The plain here with no mintage, they made less of them, and those were made at the Melbourne Mint. So look for the plain; it's worth a little bit more than the S in most of these coins. And that's kind of funny because you'd think that maybe the one from the United States would be worth a little bit more, or one minted in the United States. Let me put it that way. They were never used in the United States. Obviously, they were shipped straight to Australia during the war. But the ones minted in the United States are actually worth a little bit less because they minted so many more during the war. All right, that's all we have today from the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Thanks for watching, and we'd love to have you subscribe to our channel and leave any comments you might have in the comments section.